You ever see a grown woman in a red blazer call the cops on a teenager for wearing shorts? Because that's where this starts. My niece Ava, 15, getting slammed against a patrol car by two uniforms. While Cynthia Bellamy, HOA Queen Bee, just stands there, sunglasses glinting like she's the sheriff of her own little kingdom. I swear you could hear her smirk all the way down the block as she pointed at Ava's shorts and declared public indecency, like she'd just uncovered some grand conspiracy. But here's the thing about Cynthia. She doesn't know I'm not just some quiet uncle. I'm Daniel Mercer, systems engineer, used to build surveillance firmware for law enforcement, and those officer body cams? Still streaming live, straight to the county's oversight server. I leaned in, just loud enough for her to hear. That feed's live. You sure you want to do this? Her face flickered, just for a second, then she tried to play it cool, but I knew I'd landed a punch. You want to know how HOA tyrants fall? When the truth hits daylight, and all their power games get broadcast for the world to see. I didn't come back here just to mow lawns and mind my business. I made a promise to my sister before she passed. Take care of Ava, keep her spirit safe, and fight for this house no matter what. Rachel's initials are still carved into the oak out front. A reminder not to back down. Standing in the yard, watching neighbors frozen on their lawns, some filming, some pretending not to see, it all hit me. This wasn't just about shorts. It was about Cynthia's need for control and her belief that nobody would ever push back. But what she never realized is that tech can cut both ways. The very systems she leaned on were wired to betray her. I swore right then she'd regret turning this neighborhood into her own little stage. When Ava was dragged away, the whole block went quiet. Except for Cynthia, arms crossed, chin up, barking about standards for the benefit of anyone within earshot. The cops hesitated, glanced at their cams, but followed through. Ava in cuffs, tears on her cheeks. It tore something out of me. After the patrol car rolled away, Cynthia got in one last jab, something about thinking twice before ignoring her directives, then retreated to the HOA office, blinds always drawn. The place pulsing with her need to control. I followed, hanging back far enough to watch neighbors lining up with their complaints, violation slips in hand, scared to step out of line. Out on the porch, Terrell Gaines leaned on the railing, clipboard in hand, not grinning, not siding with Cynthia, just looking like a man caught in the crossfire. He's the HOA's maintenance guy? Knows every busted pipe and camera. Our eyes met, and there was a flicker there, something he wanted to say but couldn't. I clocked it. Maybe that would matter later. Back at my place under Rachel's oak, I cracked open my laptop. No hacking required, just old credentials from my city contracts. I pulled the cam footage, saved it off the county servers, a little insurance Cynthia couldn't bury. That was my first real weapon, raw, uncut proof of her orchestrating a sham arrest over a pair of shorts. For her, it was about control. For me, it was about keeping my promise and not letting her erase the last piece of family I had left. The next morning, I found Terrell at the community pool, tightening bolts with more force than necessary. He wouldn't meet my eye, but I could see the conflict tearing at him. I didn't press, just gave him space. If you've had enough, you know where I live. His hands trembled on the wrench, jaw tight, the kind of silent struggle that says more than words ever could. Rachel used to say, watch people's hands. They'll tell you what the mouth won't. She was right. Later that day, a violation notice flapped on my door. This time, the charge was my oak tree, threatening sidewalk uniformity. Cynthia, weaponizing bylaws to whittle us down one root at a time. I marched that slip right to her office, held it up. Your roots don't run deeper than this tree, Cynthia. Her response was ice cold. It's not personal, just standards. But her hands shook just a bit, the board members around her looking everywhere. But at her. That's when I realized this wasn't just her show. She needed an audience kept in line by fear. I left, ran into Terrell by the side entrance, his knuckles white, jaw set, still silent. But the cracks in Cynthia's empire were starting to show. That night, I dove deeper into the body cam logs, parsing the metadata. There it was, a command override, not from county dispatch, but from inside the HOA's own network. Cynthia, or someone acting under her thumb, had hijacked police response for her own agenda. That wasn't just a violation. That was abuse of authority. Pure and simple. Terrell was the missing piece, and I knew it. I found him in the maintenance shed the next morning, his foot tapping, face drawn. I laid out the flash drive, told him straight. If you keep covering for her, you're part of it. But if you step up, you help stop it. He hesitated. Kids, a mortgage, fear of Cynthia's wrath, but I didn't back off. She already is ruining you. Maybe today it's my family, tomorrow it's yours. He didn't take the drive, but he didn't push it away either. That was enough for now. By dusk, Terrell showed up at my door, sweat staining his collar, clipboard clutched like a shield. He confessed, Cynthia had been running these overrides for months, calling in the cops for every petty complaint. Ava's arrest crossed a line he couldn't swallow. He handed me a notepad full of dates and times, linking her actions to every abuse. The dam had finally broken. With Terrell's notes and the footage, I built a case that would survive any courtroom. But strategy is everything. Drop it too soon, Cynthia buries it. Go to the county, it gets lost in bureaucracy. No, I needed the board meeting, her favorite stage, to be the scene of her own undoing. I started with the neighbors, showing them the evidence at the park. One by one, they saw the pattern. Their stories poured out. Kids ticketed, fines over mailbox paint, threats and humiliation. The silence Cynthia thrived on was starting to crumble. At the board meeting, every seat was filled. Cynthia sat at the head, red blazer crisp, eyes cold. As she plowed through her agenda, the room rumbled with quiet rebellion. I stood, slid my laptop onto the table, and called her out, projected the footage, showed the override logs. Then Terrell stood up and confirmed it all. The crowd erupted, chanting, "Vote her out," until even the board turned on her. By the time the vote came, Cynthia's hands shook so hard her pen hit the table. The motion passed. She was suspended, her power stripped right there in front of everyone she'd ever tried to intimidate. Out in the parking lot, neighbors hugged, violation slips waved like flags of freedom. Terrell came up, relief breaking across his face. "She can't scare me anymore," he said, voice finally steady. And when Ava ran to me, safe and smiling for the first time in weeks, I knew we'd done it. We went home under the oak tree. The whole neighborhood changed. I projected the footage one last time, not for vengeance, but to remind everyone what we'd stood up to and won. People pledged to fix the system, to demand real elections, to never let silence rule again. So yeah, if you've ever been steamrolled by some petty tyrant with a little too much power, hit subscribe. Drop your story in the comments. Tell me what you would have done. Was I right to fight back this way, or did I go too far? Because, sometimes justice doesn't show up in a badge or a board meeting. It starts with someone saying, "Enough." You'd think that after a showdown like that, the neighborhood would settle into a peaceful lull, right? Yeah, that's what I told myself too as we all stood under Rachel's oak tree, watching Cynthia's red blazer disappear into the night. For a minute, hope was a living thing. People shook hands, swapped numbers, promised things would be different. Kids chased fireflies across the grass. Neighbors who barely spoke before now shared stories about Cynthia's reign like war veterans swapping old scars. I saw a couple actually laugh, heads thrown back, as if they could finally breathe. For once, the air on our street didn't taste like fear. But you know how it goes. Power leaves a vacuum, and in the days after Cynthia's suspension, you could feel the old nerves twitching under the surface. The HOA board was scrambling, pretending to take charge. Suddenly, the blinds in the office were always open, the coffee always hot, and emails hit inboxes at the speed of guilt. Neighbors looked to me for answers I wasn't sure I had. Some folks wanted payback. Others wanted everything to just go away, like if we ignored the mess, we could sweep it back under the beige carpet Cynthia liked so much. Let me back up a sec. After the board meeting, I barely slept. Not because I was worried about Cynthia anymore, but because the adrenaline had nowhere to go. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Rachel, her laugh, her hands in the garden, the way she'd tell me to breathe when the world went sideways. Now Ava was safe, but I kept hearing her voice. Don't let them break her spirit. That night, Ava curled up on the couch, her textbook open but unread, and I could finally promise her, it's over. She's not coming back. For the first time, she believed me. But it's never that simple. The next morning, as the sun crawled over the rooftops, a new letter landed in my mailbox. Not a violation. Slipped this time, just a bland, official notice from the interim board, reminding everyone of the ongoing investigation and asking for patience and unity. I almost laughed. Unity after years of divide and conquer? Yeah, good luck with that. Still, something was shifting. Terrell started showing up more, not with a clipboard, but with a coffee mug, no longer afraid to stand still and talk. He helped me trim the oak's lower branches, careful to leave the carving untouched. At one point, he paused, wiped sweat from his brow, and said, "Funny how fast things change. I keep waiting for her." Shadow to jump out from behind the office blinds. He grinned, a real, honest grin. But I think folks finally saw her for what she was. That's when the twist hit. Word got around that Cynthia was lawyering up, planning to sue the HOA for wrongful suspension. Apparently, she was threatening to take the whole board down with her, claiming the evidence was doctored. Terrell had been coerced. And yours truly was some sort of tech vigilante manipulating the system. You know what I mean? The gall of it. After everything, she still thought she could rewrite the ending. The board freaked out. Of course, half wanted to grovel, half wanted to disappear. Only Mrs. Franklin, whose son had gotten that bogus ticket, stood her ground. She marched right up to the office, demanded a full audit of every enforcement action Cynthia had taken. And this time, she had backup. One by one, more neighbors joined, voices rising, not angry, just determined. They wanted transparency, real elections. Maybe even a shot at rewriting some of those bylaws that had been twisted into weapons. Meanwhile, I worked behind the scenes, backing up evidence, archiving everything, helping people draft letters. For the upcoming county review, it wasn't glamorous, just a lot of coffee, late nights, and stubbornness. Terrell and I grew closer, a real partnership forming out of all that tension. He confessed one day that he'd almost quit a dozen times under Cynthia, but seeing the community finally stand up gave him something to believe in again. You want a little irony? Rachel's oak tree became the symbol for all of it. Neighbors started leaving notes tied to the branches, thank yous, memories, even apology letters for not speaking up sooner. I found Ava one evening reading them out loud, her voice soft but proud. "Looks like this tree's got deeper roots than any of us thought," she said, grinning. I told her, "Yeah, it's got your mom's stubbornness, that's for sure." Now, I'd love to say everything wrapped up with a neat bow, that Cynthia slunk away into obscurity and the HOA transformed overnight into a shining model of democracy. But life's messier than that. The board called a special election. Neighbors debated new candidates. Old wounds reopened, but people finally had a voice. Some still wanted to look the other way, but more and more, they showed up. Voted, demanded receipts. You could feel the balance shifting, slow, but real. Ava, for her part, bounced back stronger than I'd hoped. She started a group chat for the teens, making sure nobody felt alone if the board got too pushy again. I caught her once, helping a neighbor kid repaint his bike after Cynthia's old rules had banned unapproved colors. She laughed and said, "Rebellion's kind of fun, huh?" "Yeah, kid, it is." Every time I sit beneath Rachel's tree, I think about how close we came to letting one person rewrite the rules for all of us, just because it was easier to be quiet. But now, every breeze through those branches reminds me, we fought back, not with fists, but with proof, with voices, with a community that finally woke up. Cynthia might still circle, threatening lawsuits, but her power's gone. And in its place, roots, voices, and the promise that this neighborhood belongs to all of us now, not just the loudest bully in a red blazer. So, what would you have done? Would you have pushed back or stayed quiet? Tell me in the comments, because the only thing that keeps tyrants in power is silence. If you've got a story, share it, because every fight like this is a lesson for the next one. Hit subscribe if you want more real stories of neighbors standing up, and let's keep the conversation going. Community isn't about rules, it's about standing together, even when it's messy. Especially then.